A suspicious fire broke out inside the Sherry Netherland Hotel, and now investigators are looking into if it's linked to the arrest of an exiled Chinese businessman. Controversial Chinese billionaire Guo Wengui, an associate of Steve Bannon, was arrested for an alleged billion-dollar fraud scheme. And the FBI...
Smoke coming from the very, very top. You could see it from the backside.
Investors and investigators say he pulled off this scheme to line his own pockets.
Today, we're diving into a story that's got it all. Billion-dollar fraud, international intrigue, and a self-proclaimed crusader against communism who might just be the biggest con artist of the 21st century. Our story starts in China, with a man named Guo Wengui, also known as Miles Guo. By 2014, Guo was one of China's richest real estate tycoons, with a net worth estimated in the billions. This most expensive building in all of China, next to the iconic Beijing Olympic Stadium with a dragon head design, is one of Guo's real estate. But Guo's path to riches wasn't exactly squeaky clean. He allegedly used blackmail and bribery to secure deals, filming high-ranking officials in compromising situations and using the footage to get prime real estate at bargain prices. By 2014, the tide was turning. One of Guo's key government allies was under investigation for corruption. Guo could see the writing on the wall. It was time to get out. In 2015, Guo fled to New York City, bringing as much of his fortune as he could. Back in China, prosecutors threw the book at him. Bribery, fraud, money laundering, even rape. But with no extradition treaty between the US and China, Guo was safe. Or was he? This is where our story takes a sharp turn and where Miles Guo's second act begins. See, Guo didn't come to America to retire. He reinvented himself as a crusader against the Chinese Communist Party, aka CCP. He started a Chinese language YouTube channel, claiming to expose high-level corruptions in China, and people ate it up. Hundreds of thousands of subscribers, millions of views. Guo was on fire, and his timing couldn't have been better. Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign was ramping up. With the strong anti-China rhetoric, suddenly there was a huge appetite in America for anyone willing to bash Beijing.
I beat China all the time.
Guo became a sensation in right-wing media circles. He made frequent appearances on conservative outlets, befriended Steve Bannon, Trump's former campaign manager, and even dropped a hip-hop track called Take Down the CCP. I kid you not. But here's where things get really interesting. How was Guo founding this new life as an anti-CCP crusader? Enter GTV Media Group, G News, G Fashion, G Clubs, and the crown jewel, the Himalaya cryptocurrency, or H-Coin. Guo launched a series of businesses, all aimed at his growing fan base. Guo used his massive social media following to raise hundreds of millions of dollars. He promised high returns, threw around buzzwords like blockchain and AI, and claimed his companies were worth billions. With H-Coin, he went even further, claiming it was backed by gold and would soon be recognized as legal tender worldwide. He published a promotional video called H-Coin to the moon, predicting the H-Coin would surpass Bitcoin. In total, Guo raised over $1 billion from his followers. Let that sink in for a moment. $1 billion. Now you may be thinking, yeah, that's a lot of money, but maybe he was using it to fund his fight against the CCP, right? Well, let's take a look at where all that money actually went. Instead of funding an anti-CCP movement, Guo spent lavishly on himself. We're talking a 37 million yard called Lady May, a 50,000 square foot mansion in New Jersey, complete with 1 million worth of Chinese and Persian rugs, a 3.5 million Ferrari, an 800,000 Lamborghini, a 2.9 million Bugatti, and that's just the tips of the iceberg. When Guo did invest, it wasn't pretty. He sunk 100 million into a hedge fund betting against the Hong Kong dollar. And spoiler alert, It didn't work out. Guo lost 30 million on that bet alone. But here's the real kicker. Most of Guo's victims, they were Chinese Americans. Many are Chinese nationals, the very people he claimed to be fighting for. This guy is what we call affinity fraud. It's when a fraudster targets members of their own ethnic, religious, or social group. Because the scammers is one of us, victims are more likely to trust him. We've seen this before. Bernie Madoff, for example, targeted fellow members of the Jewish community. Guo's targets were Chinese Americans, many of whom were deeply distrustful of the CCP and Chinese government, and they saw Guo as a hero. Guo's influence went beyond just separating people from their money. His followers became increasingly radicalized. On January 6, 2021, Guo's supporters were among the crowd at the White House, pushing claims of election fraud.
What makes you so certain that there's been fraud in the election?
I follow GTV and G News. So according to Guo's sources, the Chinese Communist parties, they print the ballots from China and shipped here. So this is becoming like the communist China that I fled.
This is the real danger of what Guo was doing. He wasn't just scamming people out of money. He was spreading disinformation, feeding into conspiracy theories, and radicalize a vulnerable community. The internet intelligence firm Graphica mapped Guo's influence on the right. What they found out was very alarming. Guo's network was deeply intertwined with right-wing American political circles. His followers were getting their information from the same sources as many on the American right.
What's most concerning is the propensity for members of Guo's media network to take information that's been spread online and translate that offline. That has on multiple occasions led to acts of real-world violence.
Guo launched a campaign to eliminate traitors, calling out specific individuals and naming them as spies for the CCP. Soon after, Guo's followers started to showing up to protest outside these alleged spies' houses. And these weren't peaceful protests. In some cases, they led to physical threats and abuse. One of Guo's targets was Teng Biao, a human rights lawyer and advocate for free speech in China. Teng has been detained and tortured by the Chinese government in the past. You would think he'd be the natural ally for Guo's supposed cause. But Teng made the mistake of questioning Guo's motive. The result? Guo declared him a spy, and the protest began.
What I concerned most is my family's safety, especially my children's safety.
This is the twisted irony of Guo's movement. He claims to be fighting against oppression of the CCP, but he's using the same tactics of intimidation and harassment against his critics. But let's get back to the money. In September 2020, the SEC came knocking. They issued a cease and desist order and slapped Guo's company with a $500 million fine. The company settled, but admitted no wrongdoing. One of Guo's victims was a software engineer named Ryan. He invested $500,000 in Guo's platform and even helped develop the GTV.
Guo Wengui always wearing the fancy suit and living a luxury apartment and a yacht. We have never met a Chinese person like Guo Wengui. I believe everything he said.
But when Ryan disagrees with the direction of the platform, he quickly found himself labeled as traitor.
I didn't eat anything for maybe 2 days. Just couldn't sleep. After that, I found Guo Wengui is a big liar.
Ryan's story is just one of many. Thousands of people invested nearly $500 million into GTV and other companies linked to Guo. Many of them lost everything. In March 2023, the House of Cards finally collapsed.
Inside penthouse where a Chinese billionaire linked to Steve Bannon was arrested.
An afternoon fire inside a luxurious Manhattan hotel and residence.
The agents arrested the Chinese billionaire on fraud and money laundering charges.
Guo was arrested in New York, facing charges of wire fraud, security fraud, and money laundering. If convicted of all counts, he's looking at over 100 years in prison. The government seized $634 million in assets, including his mansion and his Bugatti. But it's a drop in the bucket compared to what the investors lost. Most victims will get back less than half of what they invested, if they're lucky. Even now, with Guo behind bars, his influence lives on. His website G News is still pushing conspiracy theories, claiming that Guo's arrest is part of CCP's plot to silence him. First, it's a stark reminder of the power of disinformation. Guo built an empire on lies, exploiting people's fears and distrust of the Chinese government. Second, it shows how easily extremist ideologies can spread in the age of social media. Guo's followers weren't just scammed out of money. Many were radicalized, pushed towards extreme political views. Finally, it's a cautionary tale about the danger of personality cults. Guo presented himself as a crusader for justice, a billionaire willing to sacrifice everything to fight the CCP. In reality, he was just another con artist, willing to say anything to separate people from their money. The Miles Guo case is more than just a story of a billion-dollar fraud. It's a warning about the intersection of disinformation, political extremism, and good old-fashioned greed. In an era where it's increasingly difficult to separate fact from fiction, the Miles Guo saga is a reminder to always question what we're told, especially when it confirms what we want to believe. So what do you think about Miles Guo and his billion-dollar fraud? Is he a crusader against communism who went too far? Or just a con artist who found the perfect mark? Let me know in the comments down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.